Okay, so you saw that we had some anomalies in our normal map, and so I wanted to take a minute and kind of explain normals. Okay, normals is, you can kind of think of it as which way the object is facing based on how light rays hit it. Okay, so a good way to kind of start out is I'm going to add an edit normal modifier to our stack, edit normals, and then you're going to see these little blue lines. Now, a lot of times when you come in, these are going to be really long. It'll be something like this. You can change the length of these down to where it's easier to see them, so it doesn't matter how long they are, just kind of get them in your viewport. Now, what this is, the way you can kind of think of this, is these are light rays. We have a tendency to think that light hits a surface because that's what it does in nature, and that's how we get light on the surface, but in a 3D program, that's not really what's going on. Light hits the vertices, and then it averages the vertices across the surface. So this top surface lighting is based on a light ray hitting this point, that point, that point. So it's averaging all of these singular points on this vertex, and it's averaging for this surface. Okay. Well, you can see how these are kind of bent. And so that's what's causing that normal map to be kind of bent in the center. So there's several ways to approach this, but a pretty simple way is I'm going to go back underneath this edit normal, and I'm going to put an edit poly modifier on this. Once I have that there, I'm going to go to the polygon state, and I'm going to pick all of these large surfaces. I can do them all at the same time. And then what we're going to do is an inset. So we need edit polygons. We're going to do an inset, and I'm going to use my settings because this die is kind of small. And then we'll start doing an inset in here, and you can see it's pretty sensitive. And we'll get something maybe about like this. Okay. Now what that's doing is putting us a second set of vertices. So I'm going to deselect that, turn your sub off, and go back to edit normals. And now you're going to see I have a second set of vertices that are pointing up, and this has also pulled these other ones up a little bit more too. So now these rays are going to be hitting more perpendicular to this surface, and that will help in correcting that normal map bake. Okay, so now that we've put that extra row of vertices in there so we can straighten up these light rays, by insetting that, that's going to affect our unwrap that we did. Okay, so we're going to put another unwrap on top of this. And then let's go into there. We can deselect and then go into there. And let's turn off our checker here. And so what you'll notice when you come in here is we don't see that extra row of edges that I put in there. Okay, they don't show because they were done after we did the unwrap. They're done after this. All right, so what we need to do, all we need to do is relax this and they'll pop in. So we just need to go ahead and select all these polygons. Then we're going to do a relax in here. Now we really don't want to do this unfold, optimize. I mean, it'll actually do it, but it's going to rotate them, and then we have to realign those. So let's just go to here to relax by polygon angles, and then watch when I hit this apply, you'll see those extra edges now are in the correct places. Okay. So that's fixed. Okay, so there we go. And then, of course, we need to fix the smoothing groups. Let's turn off that map scene display. And then, of course, we put our smooth back on it. Now it's smoothed back out. Now, when we do that, we're going to need to reset this cage. Okay. Now, another thing that we can do here is when you're resetting this cage, right here under display, you can click shaded, which will actually shade this cage. And that's kind of a benefit for us because then we can tell as we push it out when we get these cups in here. So now we're going to do a push. Just click, hold down, and drag. And you can see how you can kind of see that since it's shaded, we can see it conflicting with those little cups that we've got in there, those little insets. So we just need to make sure we go out. So we got all of those in all the way around it. So they're all inside of there, and that'll fix that. Okay, so that's going to fix that lighting information that we need for the normal maps. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a test here. Let's rename this. We'll just call this test. And make sure I have the low poly picked and everything on. And yeah, I got my smooth and everything on. So there we go. And bake. Alright, let's check it. And that looks nice and clean. Alright, that looks good. Alright, we're good with that. Okay, so that fixed our normal map situation. So now we're ready to go on to our surfacing for the rest of our surface that we want to put on it. And let's cover that next. Alright, now, next thing is, okay, this is the metal, and I need to make sure this metalness is set to 1, and then this is another physical. This will be our dots, so we'll say this is dots. And so we're going to apply that to all of these little die holes. Apply that. And then I'm going to pick a color. And I think I'm going to make mine kind of a, maybe a blue-green color. Maybe desaturate that a little bit. And maybe a little darker or something like that. Okay, reflections 0.6. Not that this really doesn't matter. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Okay, pick our low poly here. Now what we're going to add is a metalness to it, and we can turn off our normal here. Alright, we need to switch that back to 1024. I think this will keep our, yeah, it'll keep the same 24-bit alpha. And that'll bake our metalness map. Okay. And then we want to do color. Okay, now I have a metal chart here, which tells me what colors different kinds of metals are. Copper, iron, aluminum, silver. I think I'm going to go for nickel. Okay, so my die is going to be made from nickel, which is 211, 203, 190. So what I'm going to do is go File, View Image, and then let's go over and open up the image of my metalness chart. There, my metal chart. Which here it is, and now I can just use the eyedropper here. And sample that. There we go. Alright, so my metal is going to be nickel, and then my dots are going to be green. And so now we can bake a color map. So we go here, make sure we have the low poly picked, and then we're going to go color, and a 1024 for that, and bake, and that's going to get us our color map that we need. Now, by the way, this throws people off sometimes. That image that's popping up, okay, this is not what the map will look like, okay, the map's a separate thing. So this throws people off when they see this color and we're baking normal. This just displays what's happening in our viewport, but not what it's actually baking. Okay, that's a color map. All right, so now we want to get some kind of a roughness map in here. So, let's go to Maps, General, and I'm going to use the smoke. And for right now, let's turn off the low poly. And I'm going to put the smoke in the base color of the metal. And then for a second here, I'm going to turn the metal off. Don't forget to turn that back on. And now let's just see what kind of pattern that we're actually generating here. Okay, and you can see it's pretty dark because the smoke is way too big. I don't know, let's go maybe 5. That may be okay. And now I want to clamp it a little bit. So remember, whatever is white is dull and black is glossy. And then we might want to clamp this. So what we're going to do is go to Maps, General, and get an output node. And then plug that in. And then on it, enable it, the color map, and then let's put 2 points in here. And now we can kind of sharpen up the edges. I'm just going to go extreme right now. And we need more white, which means we move this to the left. And it's still too big. Let's go back to my smoke. Let's go 1. There we go. I think that's too small. Let's go maybe 2. I like that better. Okay, so now back to our output. And I'm going to slope this a little softer. Slide it over. I still think that's too big. So let's go back. 4 is too big. 3. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so the thing to remember here is wherever it's black, it's going to be glossy, and wherever it's white, it's going to be matte. think that's going to be fine. All right, we close that. So just pay attention that a procedural texture's display in your viewport is not accurate. Okay, and so then we need to change this out of our base color, and it goes into the roughness map. Be sure and turn our metal back on. And now what we need, pick the low, turn low poly back on, pick it, and then we're going to go roughness and add that in. And that's a 1024. And so we're going to bake that. Turn off the color. We already baked that. So we baked a normal, a metalness, a color map, a roughness map. Let's bake that. Okay. So let's open these in Photoshop. Okay, so here they are opened in Photoshop. So for our normal, we got to drop the backgrounds in. So let's go ahead and put a background in here. This is normal purple that we're flooding it with, which is 128 by 255. So then we'd save that out. That's our normal map, our metalness map. And so we're going to, in this case, we want to fill it with black. Okay, black is off, white is on. So wherever it's white, it's going to be metal. Black is going to be non-metal. So we save that out. And then this is our color map. Traditional color maps have black in the background. So this is the metal color. That's our plastic color. And then we're going to go for, this is our roughness, and we fill that in the background. We fill that with black, and that's our roughness. So wherever it's white, it's going to be rough, and where it's black, it's going to be shiny. Okay, so we're going to save those out, and then we're going to bring them into Sketchfab. Okay. Before we can bring those maps in, we're going to need to export our model again, because we've altered it, and so we're going to have to bring it back in. So we need to go ahead and just export this again, export selected, and just export it as a new FBX file, and then we'll bring it in back into. So we'll just call this dice updated. And then we've already set up the presets, and so we just leave them as they are and export that in. There we go. All right, so now we need to go over to Sketchfab. Okay, so now we need to go over to Sketchfab, and we're just going to overwrite the one that we had. So you're going to go re-upload right here, and then this will allow you to upload the new one and just replace the old one. So let's see, my export folder, there's the updated one. So you'll just bring that in, you'll say re-upload it. It'll take a few minutes. As a matter of fact, it'll do some spinning over here until it finally comes up, and then we're going to replace the old geometry. Check model, then you'll just go choose the re-uploaded model, and then it'll come in. Then we can go up here to our edit 3D settings, and we'll go to our maps. Now down here on your normal map, you've already got one loaded in. I've already deleted mine out of there, so let me just bring one in here. So I'll just bring an old normal in here just so you can see what's going on. Okay, so when you come in, you're going to go to normal, manage, then you can just dump this one. Just hit delete, dump it, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to delete that? You go, yeah, okay. And then you're going to bring in your new normal map that you cast to go onto your object. And there it is. And it's got a mid-tone gray in here. And then on our roughness here, if I want to turn all this down, then you'll see our metal. So let's turn our metalness down. Let's turn our specular, leave our specular at 0. Actually at 0.5. That's where we want that. Okay, so now our roughness, and now what we have is a glossy plastic. Okay, now you'll see another thing that I have is I've turned on a shadow in there to have a shadow underneath it, and I will come back in and tell you how to do that. But now we've got the normal map happening in here, and it's looking nice. Okay, so let's bring in our other maps that we baked out. So texture, manage texture. We need to import the roughness, metalness, color. We already brought the normal in, so let's bring those in. Okay, and so we're doing the base color, which is this one. And our metalness is this one. And our roughness is this one. And I think I want to make our dye not quite as shiny. So let's go in and manipulate that in Photoshop. Let's go bring that back in Photoshop. Okay, so Photoshop in. Okay, let's make a new layer and let's fill it with a 50% gray. So if I just hold down my control key and click on this, it'll isolate into those areas. And we're going to go to Edit, Fill. And this defaults normally to like black. We want this a 50% gray. 50% gray is neutral. So we'll fill it with that. And then we're going to turn it down. Maybe something like that. Then what we might want to do is drop our metalness. I'm holding down the shift key and dropping it over here. So we can go darken. I'm going to pull down those not to be completely shiny in there. Let's try something like that. So what we're doing is adding some gray to get rid of some of this so it's not completely black in here, so it'll break up some of that shininess. So let's export that. And that's going to just overwrite the other roughness. And let's bring that back in. roughness in. Alright, so now it's not quite as shiny. My dots were off a little there. Let me go back in. Oh, I know what it was. That was my old metalness. Let's close these. I can't remember which ones are which. Alright, let's open these back up. So I want to open up my metalness and my roughness. Alright, there we go. Alright, so back up. I overwrote it, didn't I? I overwrote it. I gotta rebake that. Alright, give me a second. So brought that back in. So let's do this again. Here. Okay, we need to fill that. Put my gray. Turn that down some. And then drop my metalness back over the top of it. And make that darken. And then turn that down some. Okay, now export that out. Okay, let's bring that roughness back in. Let's go ahead and dump these other ones. Okay, and that fixed it. And so now there we go. All right. Okay, so in our post-processing right here, you can come in here and turn vignette on. Okay, right there. That's going to give it darkening in the corners. And then if we go over here to our lighting, we can turn ground shadows on right here. That's turning our shadows on. What it does also is you'll see that as I rotate this, that it's kind of doing this weird streaking thing. And that's some anti-alias settings. As a matter of fact, you'll see here it says, when the background is disabled or a fixed image, you might consider turning off the anti-aliasing. So to fix that kind of shadow funkiness, you go back to your post-processing and go down here under anti-aliasing, and we want to turn this off. And then that'll fix that shadowing issue there. And, okay, hold down the Alt key, then drag the light source around. You can see, so we've got a variation of roughness on the surface. It's metal, it's a metal die. And then we've got plastic insets into there. And that looks pretty good. Okay. There we go. All right, then last thing you'd want to do is you kind of set it up where you want it. Okay, then you're going to click this Save View, and it'll make a snapshot of this. So when you're putting it up in our forum, this is what you will see. And then just be sure you save your settings before you get out of here. Okay, and that is the process. And hopefully you were able to accomplish that. And we will deal with some other issues in class. All right. Hope that helped you. Thank you.